It started with a feeling she couldn't explain. Not love, not fear, not even excitement. Just something unfamiliar that appeared quietly one evening and refused to leave. At first, she tried to ignore it. People were talking around her, the room filled with soft laughter and ordinary conversations, but her mind kept drifting somewhere else. It was strange, because nothing unusual had happened. The night looked the same as every other night. The lights were warm, the air was calm, and the world outside the window moved like it always did. Yet something inside her had shifted. She couldn't point to the exact moment it began. Maybe it started earlier that day. Maybe it had been building slowly for weeks without her realizing it. Or maybe it happened the second she noticed the quiet tension in the room, the kind that no one else seemed to feel. She told herself she was imagining it. But the feeling didn't disappear. Instead, it grew stronger. The more she tried to focus on normal things, conversations, music, the ticking clock on the wall, the louder her thoughts became. Her heart wasn't racing, but it felt heavier somehow, like it was carrying a question she didn't know how to answer. Why did this moment feel different? She walked toward the window, pretending she just needed fresh air. Outside, the street was dimly lit, almost peaceful. A car passed slowly, its headlights sliding across the pavement like a quiet reminder that the world was still moving. But inside her mind, time felt paused. That strange feeling returned again. It wasn't overwhelming, but it was persistent. And what made it even more confusing was that nothing around her explained it. No dramatic event, no sudden surprise, just a subtle shift she couldn't name. She leaned against the wall, thinking maybe it would fade if she stayed still long enough. But then something unexpected happened. A memory surfaced. Not a loud memory. Not one of those vivid moments people talk about. It was softer than that, almost like a whisper from the past. She remembered a moment from years ago when she had felt something similar. Back then, she had ignored it too. And later, she wondered if that had been a mistake. That realization made the feeling stronger, because now she understood something that frightened her a little. Sometimes the quietest emotions are the ones that change everything. She closed her eyes for a moment, hoping the thought would disappear. But when she opened them again, the feeling was still there, waiting. It wasn't telling her what to do. It wasn't pushing her toward any decision. It simply existed, sitting quietly in the back of her mind like an unanswered question. And the more she thought about it, the more curious she became. Why tonight? Why now? Why did this ordinary moment suddenly feel like something important was about to happen? Across the room, people continued talking and laughing. To them, the night was simple and forgettable. But for her, something invisible had changed. She could sense it. Not in the room, not in the voices around her, but inside herself. Her mind began replaying small details she hadn't noticed before. The way the evening unfolded, The subtle pause in a conversation earlier, the way her thoughts kept drifting back to the same quiet place. At first, she wondered if she was overthinking, but deep down, she knew this wasn't just imagination. Some feelings arrive without explanation, and they stay until we understand them. She walked back into the room slowly, trying to act normal. No one seemed to notice anything different. The same laughter, the same conversations. But inside her, the silence had become louder. That strange feeling had transformed into something else now. Curiosity. And curiosity is dangerous when it comes from a place you don't fully understand. Because once curiosity appears, it begins asking questions. Questions that don't always have safe answers. She tried distracting herself again, listening to someone tell a story nearby, nodding politely as if she was paying attention. But the truth was, she barely heard a single word. Her mind was somewhere else entirely, still searching, still trying to understand why this moment felt like it mattered. Minutes passed, maybe longer, and slowly she began realizing something that made her uneasy. The feeling wasn't going away. In fact, it felt clearer now, more defined, like a quiet voice inside her mind saying, "Pay attention." Something about this moment mattered. She didn't know what it meant yet. She didn't know what it would lead to. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Years from now, when she looked back at her life and tried to remember when everything began to change, her memory would return to this exact night. This quiet moment, this strange feeling she couldn't explain. Because sometimes life doesn't warn us with loud events or dramatic signs. Sometimes it begins with something much smaller, a thought, a pause, a feeling that appears out of nowhere. And the most unsettling part wasn't that she felt it. It was that deep down, she knew she was about to follow it.